Okay, here we go. Welcome, you guys, to Waves of Wellness. Wow, number 9. Can you believe we've been doing this for 2 months already? It's pretty crazy. So, my name's Tracee for those who are new to QHS and new to WoW. And I have been in nutrition and fitness for probably about 15 years. And my tagline on my brand was helping you age stronger and healthier instead of sicker and weaker. And so many people think that it all starts in the gym, but it doesn't. It all starts with your fork. Okay. And we used to always say that biceps are made in the gym, but abs are made in the kitchen because, like I said, it starts with the fork. And so today we're going to talk about food, which is one of my favorite topics since I love to cook and I love to eat even more. So the cool thing is the other day, Alex was talking, I guess it was yesterday, and he said that frequency is everything. And humans are nothing but light, energy, and frequency, right? So if we think about that, then if we think about energy cannot be created nor destroyed, it can only be transferred. So why do we eat? Well, sometimes we eat because we're stressed or we're bored or we're depressed or maybe just because it tastes really good and we want more pleasure. But truly the purpose of eating, the primary purpose is to get more energy into our body. Okay, so more of these frequencies into our body. And we have high frequency food and we have low frequency food, right? So most of you know, I'm sure, unless you've been under a rock, that fruits and vegetables have a high frequency. But a ho-ho probably doesn't have a very high frequency, right? And there's also a difference in between like certain foods. Like, so for instance, I have a really great garden and I grow spaghetti squash. But if I were to buy spaghetti squash, I would buy it at the grocery store and it would be yellow. When I grow it, did you know it's white when you pick it? And the only reason I figured this difference out is because one fell behind in the pantry somewhere and later on it turned yellow. And I was like, oh, so the stuff in your grocery store that's been sitting on the shelf for quite a while is yellow because it's older. But when you harvest it from the garden, it's like a light taupe color. Okay. And even like a peach, we have 80 fruit trees and it's an organic orchard. But when you pick a peach off the tree, it does not last long, you guys. It is perfectly ripe and it has all the beautiful nutrients that God wants it to have. But when you buy it at your grocery store in a plastic box with all the perfect little holes for the peaches, did you realize that it has a different frequency? It is oftentimes picked green, put in these plastic containers, stuck in a truck and gassed across the country so it hits your grocery store at the same look as when it's perfectly green or perfectly picked from your tree, right? So the frequency of the one I picked in my orchard is going to be a lot different than the one that you get at your grocery store. So I used to tell all my clients to buy local and seasonal is always the best. Okay. Another thing that we're going to talk about today is that back in the day, say like, I don't know, 75 years ago, when you ate, say, an orange, the nutrient density in that orange was probably around 20 times higher than the nutrient density in the food that you're going to eat today. And that has to do a lot with like lack of crop rotation, poor fertilization methods. It's genetically modified, pesticides, herbicides, the environmental pollutants. The list just goes on and on. Michael Pollan wrote a book called The Omnivore's Dilemma that really covers well what happened when we separated the sustainable farms that had both livestock and crops. Okay, because the livestock fertilized the crops and then the leftover crops from harvest actually fed the livestock. So it was sustainable. And today, Dr. Jan, I can't wait to hear all the insights that she has for this. Okay. So we also have Dr. Gloria here, who most of you know. She's just such a fabulous asset for QHS as well as WoW because she's a naturopath, a homeopath, and she's a massive researcher. And she also has oh gosh, I'm going to say this wrong now because I don't have this written down, but a culinary institute. So she loves teaching, which that's why we have the Wow Can Cook show about anti-inflammatory eating. Okay, so now it's time to hear from you guys. So last week, Christine taught you how to change your relationship with foods that didn't agree with you. And we did give a big caution about this, you guys, because if you have an anaphylactic response to any foods, please do not try this, okay? It's not safe. It's dangerous. You need to I use caution. She was having a problem for a different reason. And then the week before that, Dr. Gloria talked about oral health. The week before that, we had Ellen talking about testing. Oh, oh shoot, I don't have my pendulum. But how to use applied kinesiology or muscle testing to see what foods your body needs, and that can change on a daily basis. So it's time to hear from you guys. So who has done some of the recent homework assignments and wants to talk about how it has helped you? And it could be helping you from a self-realization perspective or from an actual physical change in you. So I told you guys last week that I have actually had my husband doing he always has to do my stuff and my tricks, but I love it when he does practices that I need him to do. And I have been asking my body what it needs at each meal. So instead of me just doing my normal, from rote, right? I'm very habitual. And so I have been really mixing it up a lot and asking my body, okay, so what do you feel like having for this meal? So today for breakfast, I had eggs and avocado. And that's something that I haven't been eating as much lately. So please, I want to hear from you guys. What changes have you noticed since you've been here at WOW? We've been here now together for 2 months, and I've seen things posted in the chatty chat, but I want to hear from your beautiful voice. And if you don't raise your hand, I'm going to start calling on y'all. Okay? Okay, Greg. Woo! Unmute.
There it is. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. Well, I had a crash course, as I said earlier, a few times. And so I'm doing a lot of different things from all the different episodes. So I have my toothbrush in the hydrogen peroxide, which I never did before. I'm going out and buying all the organic, whatever I could get in good products. I'm dealing with a fatty liver situation, so I went and got the Milk Thistle and Choline. So I'm taking that. I'm no sweets. Got rid of boy. I'll tell you, that's crazy. I'm eating carrots and it'll feel like a rabbit. Yeah, instead of the pretzels and the potato chips and the candy. Let's see. So I cooked up the onion and the garlic, and which I'm going to go to the grocery store after here and go get supplies. What else did I do? There were so many things that I learned. I'm cleaned out the straw, and I'm going to look for a glass now instead of this, things like this. All right. Which are good, but I clean it out. Before I didn't take notice, excuse me, I didn't take notice to the straw and things like that. Oh man, there were so many different things. Again, organic. And I could see the difference with energy. But like I said, I'm dealing with certain physical issues right now, and I'm not going to own any of it. So
Nice.
I'm giving this a good shot. And so Dr. Gloria is not on my case, and Tracee.
Thank you, Greg.
But
That's
there's
awesome.
A lot of things. Okay, so I'll let somebody else talk.
And if your bottle is stainless steel, that's okay. Stainless or glass is great. The straws do hold bacteria in them. So if you have a straw, you can get a straw brush and then dip the straw brush into the hydrogen peroxide and run it through. But I will caution you guys, if you have anything that has like a bladder to it, or you need to keep it clean, because when I was in dentistry, they would have to do these things to purify their lines. And oftentimes there's things that get stuck inside of the plastic. So if I have like my hydro flask has a plastic straw, I put it in the dishwasher because the dishwasher will sanitize things. So you got to be really careful. That's why usually you see me drinking out of these big old mason jars. And that way I just throw it in the dishwasher. So good for you. Thank you, Greg. I love you.
One other thing, I have a quick question. So I have some bridge work done. There's nothing I could do. It's already been done. What do you do with the mouth part of it? I when I do get like a sore or something in my mouth, I get the hydrogen peroxide on a tab, a swab, and I just put it on there, and the next day it's gone. It's pretty amazing, the hydrogen peroxide. So what do you do with because I understand that the teeth have significance in different organs. Mm-hmm. So what happens?
Let me answer that. Let me answer that, Tracee.
I was going to ask you too.
Greg, that's a great thing that you're doing, but you should rinse. You should brush first and floss, and then rinse with the hydrogen peroxide and spit it out. But there's a part that's missing that we haven't talked about yet. If your urine pH is acidic, you're going to continue to grow that bacteria, even though you think you've rinsed and you've done everything right. So we'll do that on another WoW call, but you've got to make sure that you're having those problems, that you use maybe some baking soda and water before you go to bed, and check your urine pH in the morning so that you know that you're alkaline and you're not going to be feeding that bacteria that maybe you can't see. Okay?
Okay, got it.
Because that's really all you can do for a bridge. Yeah.
Okay.
That's actually a really good point. I did my strip, Gloria. I took a picture of it for you. And she's been on me to do this. And I was a 7.
Okay, so 7 is 7 is good, but the whole concept, the Nobel Prize was won by the doctor that proved that if you average in a month, not every day, because you know how depending on what you eat, it's going to change. And I'm sure Dr. Jana can vouch for that. But if I have my patients do it every Sunday morning or whatever day of the week they remember. And they write it down. Today 7.1, it's 6.8 the next week. And if in an average in a month you stay at about 7.5, you're okay. You're not giving the breeding ground for bacteria, viruses, or even cancer to be able to multiply, okay? So you're okay, but what happens is you've got to do it once a week, pick a day that you remember. I do a Sunday morning. I've done it for 30 years Sunday morning. And if you have everything right there in the bathroom, you can do it. And then that way you know that you've got an average in the month. One time isn't enough because it could have been you ate something that was nice and alkaline the day before. Okay? But thank you for doing it.
Awesome. Thank you. And okay, I'm just going to go ahead and move on. So today you're going to also get another homework assignment. Hopefully Dr. Jana is going to give you guys something really great that you can apply, and we'll talk about that at the end, okay? Because remember, this whole entire call is to help you establish healthy habits. Yesterday during our admin call, I remembered a quote from Hippocrates that says, before you heal someone, make sure they're willing to give up what made them sick in the first place, okay? So that's a time for introspection for all of us. What is lowering our vibration instead of raising it? Habits that we do, and everybody has them, that are lowering. So that's something to think about. And I'm almost ready for Dr. Jana, but really quick, Dr. Gloria is going to talk about what recipe she is going to have posting tomorrow. Do you remember which one it is?
Oh, yeah, I've got it pulled up. I want you, first of all, to visualize going through a very exotic spice market. And you get all these aromas that you would get in the Middle East or in Morocco or in Tunisia or whatever, which you can tell I've traveled a lot and I love ethnic food. But most people think it's so complicated that they don't try it. Oh, I would love to do chicken curry, or I would love to do a Tunisian dish, but it's too complicated. The recipe that Tracee and I did, that she cooked and I directed, is called muhadara. And muhadara is a Lebanese dish that only has one spice and one herb. It's got cumin and you use parsley. That's how simple it is. The rest of it is basic ingredients I know you have in your pantry. So the recipe will come out tomorrow, and then you get to see how we cook it next Tuesday, right?
Right.
Tracee,
and it's
is it
so
next? Yeah.
good.
Well, Tracee was I think amazed because it's so simple. And the point is that there is a secret to it, and you're all of you that listen to the show for cooking are going to go, oh, there she goes again with her onions. But that's what's made me famous in my cooking classes, because if you learn how to saute those onions where they get brown on the edges, okay, not just they're transparent, they're kind of sauteed and you throw them in, you're going to notice a difference. This dish will not be the same if you don't saute those onions right. So you get the recipe tomorrow. You probably have all the ingredients already, and then you can cook it on the weekend and experiment, or wait until Tuesday and see how much fun we had cooking it. So it's Mujadara, and it's a Lebanese originated recipe, but it's made a lot in all of the Middle East and Northern Africa. It used to be called the poor man's meal because it has basic ingredients and it doesn't have any meat, but it's a great thing to use for leftover chicken or leftover turkey. When you get tired of hot turkey sandwiches and turkey after day, take the turkey apart, cut it up, and add it, because it's already cooked, to your dish, and you have a high protein meal. So that's what they can look forward to tomorrow.
That's a great idea. I want to make it again.
Yeah.
And you guys, I'm going to tell you something. I have been eating low carb, paleo, keto, just like my own way
Doctoring.
I'm very doctoring, but I just make my hybrid model. Okay. But what I want to say is that I haven't eaten rice in years, like years, or lentils or any of it, until I tried this muhadara. And then I really did scarf on it. And I'm not saying I'm going to totally change the way I'm eating every day. I'm going to just be flexible, do a little carb cycling. So yeah, but it's worth it. It's so good. Okay. Dr. Jana is in the house, and I'm so excited to announce her because she's our special guest speaker today. So Dr. Jana is a member, of course, and she has a PhD in horticulture and food science, and she started studying holistic nutrition in the 80s. So she's ahead of, the curve. And in the 90s, studies were published showing significant drops in food nutrient content over the past 50 years. What did I say? 75? So it's been a while. And what was there to do but go back to the soil and grow crops the right way to restore food quality, right? And so with a lot of research under her belt, Dr. Boggs developed the award-winning Beyond Organic Growing System, which can double food nutritional content. Her unique dissertation research extended from soil to human blood, bringing an understanding of how soil health affects human health. And today I'm going to interview her, and we're going to learn all about what brought her to where she is now, and tips that you can do to make your food more nutrient dense and have a higher frequency. So welcome, Dr. Jana. Thanks so much for coming to WoW today.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Tracee. And I've really appreciated this whole WoW movement that you're doing here and helping so many people. And Dr. Gloria, I really appreciate some of the things that you've put out. Just like yesterday, I read that article that you did about the solanine and was it tomatine from the tomatoes? Just so interesting. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes. We're all working together here to help everybody get better. And I'm still waiting on my device. I joined on August the 7th, as soon as I could this summer. And but in the meantime, I've been doing what I can to help people get better and grow better quality food. And so, Tracee was saying, I started as a nutritionist, and I actually have a bachelor's of science in nutrition. But at the same time that I was getting the Bachelor of Science from the University of Texas, I actually grew up in Texas. I'm a Texan, so, I know Gloria, well, Cynthia is from Texas at least.
And I'm here too now, yeah.
Yeah, I thought you said so. Anyway, so, and I've lived from coast to coast. I've lived in California, Tracee, but it was Southern California. And I have lived over to Florida and up the Midwest. And so I've been, in a bunch of different climates and learned different things about, growing things in different places too. But now I live in Hawaii, and, it's just wonderful. So we can grow.
I can imagine. Yeah, that would be awesome. She lives on the Big Island, you guys. So I've never been there yet, but looking forward to it. So you got your bachelor's in nutrition. So I have some questions about that, because one of my besties, she has her RD. So she got her RD, and now she's like, everything they taught me was a lie. And so I'm just curious to you, what you learned doing just basic nutrition versus dietetics. Do you feel like that the education you received is the same things you feel is true for you now?
So when I was doing the work in the university, that's why I took courses that were holistic along with it, because I wanted a full picture. I wanted to know, from everybody's different perspective about health. And I had an aunt that had gotten more into health and even had a health store. And so I was just coming up through the ranks there and learning about all these things. And so, I wanted the hard sciences from the university, but I also wanted to know, the practical things that people had been doing for decades that really worked. And so, a lot of the things that they taught in the university was, to me, not the best. But, I took that and did what I could. I actually didn't end up getting my dietitian license because I didn't believe in what they were doing. We went,
Okay, so same.
we went to, really, it's what happened. We went to MD Anderson Cancer Hospital for like a little internship sort of thing. And we went to see the children in the bubble. And they were feeding them corn chips and hot dogs. I just went, no, oh my gosh. I was like, just let me out of this dietetics program. Just give me my bachelor's in nutrition and I'm out of here. And then I'm going to go do better things in the world. So, and that's just sort of what ended up happening. And I worked for holistic doctors, and then, like we were saying, these studies started coming out showing that we had lost food nutrient density. And I was going like, well, how can I be a nutritionist if we can't even have the quality of foods that we need anymore? And so actually I ended up studying that, in horticulture and growing foods the right way. And so, and then about getting back to the frequency of the foods, of course, this is something they never talk about in the universities. But I had been reading Dr. Gabriel Cousens' books, and I actually went to stay with them in Patagonia, Arizona for a week and was working in their garden and just learning, what I could. And he's into raw foods, and he's really helped a lot of people to heal from different things, and especially like diabetics. And he'll put them on a program and they'll be getting off their insulin. And I mean, it's really quite amazing what he's done. And so he wrote this book, and he was talking about the frequency of foods in this book, and how that, the raw organic foods had the higher frequency. And I'm like, well, where did this research come from? Because it wasn't him that actually did that research. And so I ran it down, and there's a man named Bruce Tinio up in Washington State. So I went to see him. And I actually got to stay with him and his wife. And I am a horsewoman, and we got to ride and everything. She had horses, and then, but I worked with Bruce, and he had created some instruments that you could actually test the frequency of foods, and you could test the frequency of the human body. So you could check the different organs. And so he put this thing on my head, and he's like, wow, he put it like 3 different places, and he's like, wow, it's like 100 or more. And he's like, do you have a headache? And I'm like, no. And, it's supposed to be like when you raise your frequency really high, then you heal. So your frequency should be around 100. And so he did this whole chart. So as your frequency would drop on this chart, then you would get more and more ill. So like down at 40 would be cancer. And then he would test all these foods. And I even had a really nice organic apple that I had taken along. And he tested and he said, oh, this is 95. He said, if I were you, I would eat that apple. And I went, yeah, I'm planning to eat it. And anyway, and then so we were testing different foods, and even things that I was kind of surprised, because like dried herbs were way down, like 50, 60. And I was like, wow. So the more that you process the foods, the lower the frequency. And that's why basically the overall thing is grow the food really well, and so that it has all the nutrients in there, in an organic way. But I call it beyond organic, right? What I do is helping people get this really high quality food grown, and then try to eat it raw. And because when you cook it, dry it, whatever, you're dropping the frequency. So that's like the nutshell of it. And
Dr. Jana, I have a question. Sure. I have a question for you. When you said that the dried herbs have a lower frequency, I totally agree. But I haven't had any way of testing it. So do you know if you dry the herbs yourself, like I used to when I had my organic farm? I was telling Tracee we used to put clotheslines with clothespins in the attic, cover it with cheesecloth, and then let it dry up there because it was nice and hot. Would that still be as low of a frequency as a store-bought dried herb, do you think, even if the dried herb that's store-bought is organic? I'm curious because I didn't have any way to test that.
Yeah, unfortunately, Bruce Tainio, he created these monitors that actually measured frequency in megahertz. So, and the one that I got to use was like the 3rd generation. They call it the BT3 monitor. But it wasn't long after that we got so many EMFs in the atmosphere that he said there was too much interference and he couldn't use it anymore to measure anything, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what happened. And and so as far as your question about those herbs, yeah, I couldn't really tell you if that's going to be different, but I mean, we know that the sun is our source of a lot of energy, and yet that the sun can damage things. Like if you lay your things out there in the sun, that some of it, can damage from the sun itself. So it's kind of, trying to figure out exactly the best way to do something like that. But a low temperature drying for sure. They say that 118 degrees is like the highest it can be without actually changing things so much. So you were doing it just at ambient temperature right.
It was probably 118 in the attic, but but I don't think it was more than that. But I was just curious if you'd ever been able to find somebody that knew, or if you have ever tested, because I had no meter to test it.
Right.
I can imagine that if I go to my herb garden, like the other day, Gloria, I did this with you. I picked some fresh thyme, remember? And I used that in our recipe. And then I left the rest on the counter to dry on its own. There's got to be a higher frequency in that time than the time I buy at Trader Joe's.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Because you grew it, you know what was on it.
So,
but so I guess what I'm saying is it is better if you can do what Tracee did. Because then she had control over growing it and she dried it. But if you can do it fresh, you're going to be better off from your garden. Stick it in water and let it grow. Even if you buy it organic, you're not sure it's organic, and you're not sure that what else has been put on it to make it look nice. And so it's better if you can have little pots. You don't have to have a big garden to have some fresh herbs. Half dozen herbs, and you've got just about all the cooking spectrum covered, right, Dr. Jen? I mean, you don't need to have 24 like I have or more.
Right,
But
right.
the basic recipes,
more variety,
yeah.
the better. I'm sure.
Right, yeah, but not everybody cares to or has the spot. So
Right.
share with us a little bit about how you're farming, because that's so interesting to me. I had an organic farm, but I didn't do anything like you're doing.
Right. So I do a very extensive soil analysis, and I do work with farmers and gardeners over here, but also across the U.S. and Canada. And so I test for like 18 different minerals. Almost nobody tests for that many. And look at all these other aspects, including microbiology in the soil. So I actually have a microscope and do that work. And then I use organically approved soil amendments to balance all of that. And so there's different soil testing methods. So different labs are different. And I use one that's based on work that was done by some people way back in like the 30s and 40s. That is Albrecht. Dr. Albrecht had done that work. And he was looking to increase food nutrient content. And then actually there were animal studies done, feeding the animals this high quality food, comparing it to foods that weren't grown as well, and actually seeing the differences come through in the urine and such. With they really did some really nice testing way back when. But then the chemical boys came in and kicked these people that were actually doing really good work out of the universities, and then brought in more chemical farming. So that happened like starting back in the 50s. And so fortunately, organic farming did start back in, well, not that it wasn't organic before it was, but just that term organic, and like a push towards getting organic into, the system and people being able to buy it in the grocery store, started back in the 60s. And, it's taken a while, but, and the organic, even though it doesn't have the pesticide issue so much as the others, it isn't necessarily more nutrient dense. And that's why I went into this work that I went into, because there have been actually a couple hundred studies looking at the difference in nutritional content between organic and conventional. And there really isn't like a huge difference. It's not like double like what I'm doing. There might be as much as 25% difference or something, but it's unfortunate that that isn't the case. And so what I want to bring is this new wave of beyond organic and what I call nutrition grown. So, and so we're really looking at growing the nutrition into the food.
So is that something that you could guide anybody to do it, or is it just on your big farm scale with all your instruments?
Oh, well, I can work with backyard gardeners as well as, somebody's got 3,000 acres. I do that. That is the work that I do, besides running a horse farm. So, yeah, I do.
So what I would like to know for the members is, first of all, what you do on your farm to make the food, more specific or more nutrient dense, higher frequency food, and then what they can do to apply to their own homes. And that way they have some action steps of things they can do. And then lastly, I wanted to talk to you about if you know about Dr. Emoto's work with water and how that can also translate to food.
Right. And I'm glad you brought up about the water. And Tracee, you've been going through the medical medium, Anthony Williams books, right? Mm-hmm. And talking about these life-changing foods. And I looked up his book, and he was talking about the structured water that's in these raw foods. So he said there's actually two different kinds of structured water. One is called cofactor water, and it's actually something, he says, animates your soul and your spirit, which is really cool. And the other one is called hydrobioactive water, which helps hold the nutrients in the food and helps us to hydrate. So there again, I mean, we're talking about getting, raw foods with lots of water in those foods. So fruits that are really well grown. Oh, so let me just talk about that. When I did my research, I actually had been going to some of these alternative kind of ag seminars where they did talk about growing food for more nutrient content. And I was sitting there watching Bruce Tyneo, as I had mentioned earlier, talking about these cherries. So he's from up there in Washington State where they grow these things, and he works with a lot of, or did work. I mean, he passed away quite a while back. But he was talking about this diabetic that was told by his doctor, you can't eat fruit, don't eat fruit. And he said, Doc, if I buy this fruit from this one particular orchard, it doesn't spike my blood glucose, even though if I buy the same variety of cherries from this, the conventional orchard, it will spike my blood glucose. So I'm going to sit in your office and eat a bowl of cherries from this good orchard, and I'm going to show you that it doesn't spike my blood glucose. And so he did that, and the doctor, had to say, well, yeah, okay. Anyway, and when I heard that, at the seminar, I just about fell off my chair, and I was like, oh my gosh, I got to do this in the university. So I had to actually find a university that would work with me enough. I went through a dozen universities trying to find the right one to do my PhD work, get my own funding. And I mean, when you do PhD work, you got to have a lot of funding to get all that research done. And find a university, with a professor that's willing to work with you. And I finally did find it at Colorado State. So anyway, and we did get that work done. So all the way from soil to human blood, and looked at the difference in how it responds. And so there was just preliminary work, really, and there needs to be a lot more work done on that. But what we came up with was that there's a difference in the phytochemicals, the phytonutrients, you can call them, in the food that's formed in the food when it's grown the right way. And those phytonutrients affect the blood glucose and keep it from spiking. So anyway, so that was really, really interesting. Okay, so Tracee, to get back to what you were saying how can people do this for themselves, right?
Yeah, that's what I want I want them to be able to have a takeaway. So they have action steps and things that they can do. And then I also want to talk about the Haru, what is his name? Emoto's work. Haru, Masaru Emoto. And I have a graphic I want to share because I feel like if you can do this with water, you can do this with living food or with food with water, because it would also have an imprint.
Right. So he was talking about either saying something or having certain music or writing love on your glass that you put your water in, right, to charge it.
Yeah, we'll get there after. First, I want to hear your tips on things that people can do based on all of your research and practice of what they can do at home.
Okay, so like I said, I do work with people and do their soil analysis. It's very extensive. The soil analysis has many different things on that test, and it's based on research to improve nutrient content. And I have been able to. When I say doubling the food nutrient content, that's kind of like an overall thing. Some things will be 5 times. Especially some of these trace elements that aren't paid attention to much. They can be 5 times more on doing it right, so because we're actually testing and seeing what's in your soil and putting the things in there in the appropriate amounts to make that soil the best ever, and have those soil microbiology little guys helping to get the nutrients in a form that the plant can uptake, and so it all works together. So
So, Dr.
You know,
Jana, would it be like, to back to Tracee's question, would it be like adding something if you're in a home garden, like soil-based organisms, or what would you advise our members to do in a small area in pots if they don't, if they only have a balcony or a small backyard, or if they're actually having a big vegetable garden? What could they do without having somebody come out and do all the soil testing and all that? What could they do on that scale to help their food be more dense, nutrient dense?
I do work with people in their backyard gardens, and you don't have to have me actually come to your place. You can take the sample yourself, send it off, and we can work over the phone. I mean, I do that all the time with people, on the mainland or whatever, because I realize that, I can't go to everybody's farm or backyard, and we don't need to necessarily. I mean, if it's a big farm and I need to go there and really see what's going on and take samples from different areas and leaf tissue analysis and this, that, and other, but for somebody that's got a backyard garden, just a simple soil analysis, it's not simple, but it's, getting a beyond organic nutrition grown soil analysis is the best way. And then we will put in all these different nutrients. And for somebody that does like a small backyard situation, I actually make up a mix for them of all these different soil nutrients, so they don't have to go out and buy 50-pound bags of things that they're not going to use. And then they can have, their own garden with really great soil.
Nice.
So have you used soil-based organisms for people like just in their home? Because that's what I did in my organic farm. And I used ladybugs, which everybody laughed at, but I bought hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of ladybugs, and it worked.
Yeah.
I mean, they would ship them to me in these boxes. I felt bad for the ladybugs. It's like, how can you just stick them in a box? They were fine. But they were literally, I think it was 1 million the last year I had the farm. And it really worked. I mean, they helped to pollinate, to help the insects stay away. And then but it wasn't like nutrient dense additional, micronutrients like you're talking about. But the soil-based organisms were easy. You bought them in containers and you mixed them in your soil. And then you had some good organic nutrients that were mixed into everything that you were growing. Is that something that you could advise us on?
Well, yes, and I do ask people to, get these microbiological type amendments for their soil, and they can do really high quality compost. They can do vermicompost, which is having earthworms, working together with your compost. But you also have to realize that if you don't have the right minerals in the soil, not all the microbes are going to make it. And I think a lot of people don't realize that. They think, we can just buy this product, we're going to put them in there, and they're going to live, and they don't. I mean, that's why they're not there to begin with. So if you balance the soil with all the different nutrients, and you can add microbes in various ways that you'd like to, and getting products there's one called BioCoat Gold that you can actually put on your seeds and then put it out. I can't get it over here very well. There's a lot of shipping restrictions here, unfortunately, but most people there are on the mainland, so you can get things like that. And so.
Would you spell that? If you can get it here, would you spell it for our members? I don't think I've heard of that.
bio, coat, COAT, and gold, GOLD.
BioGold. Okay, coat gold.
BioCoat Gold. So it's coating seeds. They use it to coat seeds before they put them in the ground. You can also just spray it on the soil. I'm still trying to get some, but it's trying to get things shipped over here is really difficult sometimes. So we just have to kind of work with our own compost and such a lot of times here. So, being on the mainland, you guys have a lot more available to you than I do, but we can still get certain good soil amendments and things like that. Just there's things. There's an organization called OMRI, which is an Organic Materials Review Institute, which kind of puts their little stamp of approval on different soil amendments. And so, if it's OMRI approved, that it's been through this testing, and so it doesn't have like heavy metals in it or something that you don't want to put out on your soil. So, getting things that are approved for organic production is really important. But you don't want to just, think, oh, I'm trying to grow some citrus. Here's the citrus amendment and put it out there, because it just depends on your soil. And the soil is so different from place to place. I mean, it can be very different even on the same plot of land in the same, on the same farm or whatever. And so you really need to have that individualized testing to be able to do the optimal and really get your plants going the way you want them to go. And so when you, in the end, you'll end up with much greater production. So the yields just increase hugely, as well as the quality. I mean, the flavor, the shelf life, just the appearance. You have less problems with pests and diseases because the plants are healthy. So if a plant is not healthy, it can't fully form its proteins and its carbohydrates. And that's what attracts the bugs, because the bugs can then digest these fragmented molecules. See, this is something that's not taught in universities, but that's the way it really works in nature. And the things that are sick and die in nature weren't worthy of reproduction. And so having the bugs, they're just, the garbage collectors, really. So if you grow it well, you won't have those issues. But, it takes a while to get your soil just right. It's not an overnight process, but we have huge improvements in the first season. I do, I get grant funding sometimes and work with farmers here we do side-by-side trials. And I say, just do whatever you usually do in your control plot over here. And then this is going to be your Beyond Organic Nutrition growing plot. And then we're going to monitor through, the whole growing season, what happens. And in the end, and we've had anywhere from between 33 and 920% increase in the yields. And of course, we've got sometimes it's a difference between no crop and a good crop. And so it's huge, the differences, plus the differences in the nutritional content of the food. So, we can.
That's important. I've also heard that if we spend time in our garden and we actually go out there to talk to our plants, to engage with them regularly, that they will know our frequency and they will improve their frequency so that they're feeding us better. Yes. So I think that is just like amazing, like beautifully amazing. So I want to really quickly show the members this picture here that I found. Whoops. Wait, how do I share screen? Okay. I want to show you guys this. Maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. But this is what I was talking about with the water and, oh gosh, I'm going to mess up his name, is Dr.
Masaru Emoto.
Thank you, Kelly. And so with these, they had different water, and some of the water, like say, imagine this, you would just like send it wisdom, love, compassion. You could put stickers or write Post-it notes, or even Cynthia has done things like this, just loving this water.
Yeah.
And, or you can play heavy metal music, be angry with your water, call it names. And,
I think she froze.
Magnifying glass. And what happens? So when you love your water, I froze. Gosh darn it, I freeze. Can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
You were going in and out.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, sorry. That's country internet for you. So let me just my video on and off. It doesn't matter. I just want you to see this.
She's Wonder Woman.
So this is
You're Wonder Woman. Showing up as Wonder Woman.
Okay, sorry. There we go.
It's okay. It's okay.
So
let's
Tracee,
it's a good example.
All right. So essentially this picture shows you, and I believe that you can do the same thing to your food. Okay. So by sending love and energy and frequency and gratitude towards your food, you can have a similar result than just the water. right? So I'm going to give you guys a homework assignment because I get to, and that is to practice sending love and gratitude and compassion and kindness and all good feeling thoughts to your water and to your food. Use this device and just take a minute before, like after you pour a big glass of water, or you prepare a meal for yourself, or even a snack, and sit down and take that moment to be mindful and send it high frequency words, thoughts, and feelings. Okay. And see if it doesn't make you have a different experience. You can journal about how you felt after consuming that meal or that water and see if your inner energy doesn't feel better. Okay. So that is the challenge I'm going to leave you with, because I think that's really important. And I also am seeing a lot of different things in the chat. Does anybody have questions they want to ask Dr. Jana? Raise your hand. Okay, Greg.
I had a small farm years ago, and what type of soil do you recommend? I was on shale, and then there's clay, and there's a lot of other type of soils. And I was determined it was shale, and I leased 30 acres out to a farmer, and I was determined to grow grass, and I also had a 30 by 100 crop garden for myself that I tilled. So I was able to grow many things there in the shale. What do you recommend as far as, because I'm going to go back to that and look for a small ranch or because I had horses as well, or farm. What type of soil do you recommend?
Well, yeah, getting real soil. I mean, here it's a challenge too, because we live on one of the world's most active volcanoes, and we've got a lot of rock. But I'm actually on the ashes from the volcano, so I have deep soil here, and so that's what I looked for. Is actually getting deep soil, not just that rocky stuff, right? So you're talking about shale that seems very rocky to me.
It is.
But like before I bought this land, I tested the soil to see, well, is it good? Is it not good? But I'm down here in the grasslands, and the soil is considered some of the best grass growing in the island chain. So I knew the soil was pretty good just from looking at this overhead high grass that grows here. But, you need to test the soil before you buy the property to see where you are and, how much it's going to take to remedy the situation there. You can have the best food.
That's a good idea. We had to do a soil report on our property before we bought our land.
Yeah.
That word property is.
Yeah, I did too before I bought my farm. Yep. Yeah.
And then Mina asked about Miracle Grow. She uses that for her garden.
Oh.
So Miracle Grow, and there's a bunch of other ones out there, tend to be more of a chemical-based fertilizer that's not like organically approved. And a lot of those types of fertilizers are hard on the soil. They're hard on the soil microbes. They're just not as soil friendly as the organically approved things. So it's better, in my opinion, to go with the organically approved. Now, if you're just trying to have some orchids and you want something quick to put on them, yeah, that's a whole different thing. It's in a little pot, you're making up a solution and spraying it on there or something. But if you're really trying to grow high quality food, you do want to have your soil analyzed and then also put on the really high quality nutrients.
Okay. And then Cynthia asked, Japanese compost mix with charcoal, baker's yeast, milk in small amounts. Cynthia, you asked that, right? Okay. You want to raise your hand and talk?
No, I can't remember. It begins with a B, but it's a special kind of, I just can't remember the name of it now, but it incorporated all of these different things into the dirt. You shovel it all in. I mean, they were making a huge amount of soil, if you will, but I know they put a big thing of just baker's yeast in. They put a liter of milk in. They banged charcoal. Now, not charcoal briquettes, just the real charcoal. They banged that into as dusty as they could, and they worked all that in as well. And they grew in a greenhouse. They were working in a greenhouse. It was quite. I'm not sure what it's called. Not Bacterium. I don't know what it's called.
There was something called bokashi. It sounds sort of like that.
Bokashi, yes, that's it. Yes.
Yeah. There's different recipes for that. There's somebody over here that makes bokashi and sells it. So, and he uses EM, which actually came from Japan. It's effective microorganisms. So that's another product that you guys could look up that you should be able to get in your local stores. EM.
Molasses too, sometimes, I guess. I don't know. Molasses.
Oh yeah, I mean that helps to promote some of the bacteria in the soil. So people use that. There's all sorts of things that people put in there. It's true. And just making good compost, even with all the different items. I do have a book too. I don't know that we mentioned the book, but it's called Beyond Organic: Growing for Maximum Nutrition and Flavor. And it is available at Amazon. It has hit #1 in a couple of categories on Amazon. It's been out now for about 10 years. So that's a resource. And I do have teaching videos and such too. 19 half-hour videos in my video course. So I work with people in that way.
So can I ask you another question? I have this I want to show you guys. Hopefully I won't freeze again. What is your take about these? Because some people don't have yards that they can grow. And I've seen these tower gardens, and some of them have lights. And what do you feel that this does with nutrients in your food? Have you seen these?
So this is like a hydroponic type system. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I believe so.
Right.
Yes, it is.
In general, what I've seen from hydroponic systems is that the plants tend to be kind of frail and watery. I think, if you were able to get it really tweaked up with all the different nutrients that you need, that it might be able to be okay. But I haven't worked with these types of hydroponic systems. And we also have aquaponics over here where they put fish in the water and such.
Oh, that might be good, because then the fish would add some. Well, no, because it's just fish poop.
Well, that's right. And again, we see watery plants come out of that. I mean, plants were meant to grow in soil, really, good soil, not really meant to grow in watery systems. And so I think, and I've talked to people that have, had these systems, and they're going like, yeah, there's just no shelf life. I pick it and it's wilted, and they try to take it to the market, and they're constantly having to spray it with water because it just wilts on them really quickly. Whereas the Beyond Organic stuff that's grown in the soil, it lasts like a really long time. And, you can have lettuce and it's a couple weeks old and it's just like it's, picked yesterday or something. I mean, it's.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a big difference, big difference.
So what about hemp? Mickey asked about hemp. If you plant that in your garden, I've heard this before also. Will it help the soil put in nutrients?
From what I hear, it is an accumulator. And so sometimes it's used to take up toxic elements. And they also use mustards, the mustard family, to take up toxic elements. And there's been some interesting research around that. Anyway,
I think hemp is technically called a chelator, which it chelates. You're right, Dr. Jan. It chelates the heavy metals from the soil, especially if it's ever been mining in that area. If you plant hemp, it seems to attract it, and then you can keep it away from the vegetables, for instance, but the hemp plant will have it. So you wouldn't want to eat the hemp plant, right?
Right.
Yeah. Right, because it's like a magnet. It's a chelator.
And then somebody else is asking about electroculture. Do you know anything about that?
I haven't really done much with it, but I did buy some copper wire, and I plan to. So I've got this coil of copper wire. Yeah, that I'm interested in trying it. I have a lot of copper in my soil though already. I mean, it's a very high copper soil. So it's not as important probably for me as it is for other people, or, you know, other soils in different areas.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Does anybody else have questions that they want to ask? Because otherwise I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Gloria to talk. Oh, wait, do you want to talk more about your recipe, or do you have more that you want to talk about?
No,
And
but
then-
I just wanted to share something else about the herbs. When you buy herbs, even if they're organic, you know how you can buy them in little packets like we recommend for your recipes that come like vacuum sealed. You don't have to buy a whole bunch or try to go out to a nursery. But people will put them in those little packets and stick it in the drawer, in the produce drawer in the refrigerator. Don't do that, because you're forming mold that's invisible. Take it out of those packages and stick it in a glass with water. I have these cute little vases that I bought at Goodwill. Somebody got rid of them. There were 6 of them that matched, and that's what I put all my herbs in, my cilantro, my parsley, all of that every week when I buy fresh one. If I don't have any, which I don't have any now, it lasts for a week or 2. But if you stick it in the refrigerator, right, it gets all, she's shaking her head, Dr. Jenner's shaking her head. What happens is it wilts and starts getting ugly and brown because you're forming mold that you don't see. So get home from the grocery store and stick all that in little glasses, or find some cute little containers that look decorative on your kitchen counter, or colored glass. Remember, color feeds your subconscious, and it also feeds the plants. So if you get, especially blue or green glass, you can go to any of these garage sales or Goodwill stores or whatever and find some cute little containers and put all of your herbs in there. They'll last twice as long.
You know what? Actually,
That's
with
all.
that said, so I did a course on Ho'oponopono, and one of the things they do,
Yep.
they say put tap water in blue glass and put it in the window for an hour, and you'll create structured water. So
Right.
I bet if you do that same thing and have blue glass and put the herbs in the blue glass in the window, it will probably do the same thing, huh? Woo!
Yeah, and my kitchen is usually trimmed all in cobalt blue, and that's for the last 40 years. But I studied color psychology, so it was very important for me to have things in colored glass, not just because it matched my kitchen, but because it did have different frequencies.
I love that.
So you're right. So just, make it a point to go to any little, kind of funny store, country store, garage sale, whatever, when you have a few minutes, and buy colored glass, especially the cobalt blue. That's becoming more rare. And the other thing is, a lot of supplements come in cobalt blue. If they do, don't throw it away. Save them. Save the bottles.
Okay, look at Dr. Janice having cobalt blue in her mug, her tea.
Yes.
Okay, Cheryl has a
I know.
question. Cheryl, go ahead.
Just a quick question on the cobalt blue container. Can you mix the herbs that you have? So if you've got some rosemary and you've got some parsley, etc.
Yes.
Etc. You can.
Yes, it's best to keep them separate. But when I only had one container, I put cilantro and parsley in the same one, and they did just as well. I don't know if you did other things in other genres. You know what I mean? Like if you put thyme and rosemary in the same one, I'm not sure. But cilantro and parsley are so closely related, they did well. But you'll have to let us know. Put the white device by it for a while. That's what I did with a beautiful plant of what was it, dill that I bought, and it wasn't doing well. I'm in an apartment. No, not dill, chives. And they were beautiful. And I bought this big pot thinking, oh, I'll do fine. And the Wi-Fi is in the same room. The air conditioning big vent is right there. And they just started, no matter what I did. Put the white device there for about 3 hours a day, which now I use it longer. But when I was only, working into it, and it perked right up, and I haven't even fertilized it. So try it. Try it in different containers together and separate, and then put your white device, if you have one, buy it. Maybe when you're charging it, charge it and put it next to the plant.
Well,
next to the herbs, and I bet you they last longer.
I've been using my water that way too, giving a prayer and then actually putting my water on top of my black device. I don't have a white device, but I've been using that when I charge.
Okay, so you.
And it's
Tracee, do you put your devices by your water? I haven't yet because I have a big water filtration system, but I should. I put it by my plant. And you put your devices by it?
I don't, but I always have, like, they're close to each other. They're right here. So without even thinking about it,
mine's right here.
Yeah. So mine are right here.
Yeah, and I do too, because it's on my neck. And here's my bottles. But this is, this is the sipper bottles that are stainless steel. Like, I don't know who had one. I think it was Greg that had one. Didn't you, Greg? Stainless steel with the straw.
And
that's the same bottles I use. I don't know if you can see them.
You guys make sure it's stainless and not aluminum, okay? Please make sure. If you're not a metal, make sure
it has to be stainless.
So,
one little tip about those herbs. When you get them, trim the bottom with scissors, like under the water, flowing water, so that, those, it can uptake the water, because, they kind of get dry a little bit in those containers. So just trim that bottom of them so that you've got it able to be uptake and the water uptaken better.
So that's a good idea. I haven't done that. I'll try it.
Yeah, under running water is the best. Yeah.
Okay, so another question. Does it have to be blue glass or can it be green glass?
I have both. I have the real pretty emerald green and I have the cobalt blue. But in my emerald green, they don't seem to do as well as in the blue. The blue is just like Dr. Jana has. It's the cobalt blue. The only thing I found that did good in green was, I've got to think of I don't remember what the herb was. It was a rare herb that I bought to test a recipe, and it did okay. But my other things don't do as well. I like cobalt blue for it. The energy and the frequency is different in cobalt blue. If you've studied color psychology, it's very different.
Okay.
And that was Dr. Max Lusher that I studied with, and he was the expert on color psychology. What was that, Tracee?
Does it also block more of the light through the blue than it does through the green or the brown?
That it lets more light in? Is that what you're saying?
No, it blocks more of the light. So in other words, it can't be the cobalt blue blocks more of the light than the brown or the green.
Yes, it does. You're right. So so maybe that's why they did better. I don't know. I mean, it's more like a soil, but I do know that in the cobalt blue, it lasts better. Yeah, brown. I've tried brown bottles, like supplement bottles that come, big ones, to try it, and they just die. Plants do not like brown glass. So stick to cobalt blue. It's easy to find in, secondhand stores and whatever, but don't throw it away. Get a big bin in your garage if you have to and start saving. Somebody showed, I think it was you, Mickey, somebody showed or maybe not, a cobalt blue bottle. It looked like a homeopathic or a liquid. I have two plastic bins, thank you, full of those, because they are very hard to get, and they're going to get harder to get because of the way they have to get the glass, the cobalt blue in the glass. So save them. I know it's, you're not being a pack rat, you're being practical. Save them, save your droppers. You can always sterilize them and use them for something else, but I don't throw any cobalt blue glass away, period.
That is great.
Try it on your herbs. Let us know. Let us know.
That's awesome.
That's your homework. That's your homework for me. Put some herbs in the glass.
Yeah, I really think that would be a good thing to do. That's another homework thing. And that would be a fun weekend thing, you guys, going to like thrift stores and, like little antique stores. I'm going to go downtown this weekend and check the antique store and see if they have any cobalt blue glass. And I know that it's a product from Mexico. So maybe if you guys have like, I know that in one of the Jason's towns, we have like a really cool, like import Mexico type store. Maybe they have it there. So go check around and see what you can find. You have lots of homework assignments today. So, Dr. Jana, thank you so much for coming on and educating our members. We so appreciate you. And I'm definitely going to check out your book because I'm going to give it to my husband. He is, he's an old farmer, right? Like his dad was a farmer. And so I'm trying to open his eyes to my way of thinking. And that's not always easy, but he has said words around like mycorrhizae and bat guano and things like that, which I have no idea what those are. Anyway, I just want to honor you. Thank you for being a part of QHS and educating our members. And also sending all of you guys love and light and frequency. And let's close today with a special. Okay, bring your hands to your forehead. May you think only joyful thoughts to your lips. May you speak only kind words and to your heart. May you show love to yourself and to all those around you. Peace, peace, peace. Namaste. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love these calls. It's the highlight of my week. So go out and have a beautiful day, and we'll see you tomorrow in the Q&A. Mwah. Okay, bye for now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.